Ms. Vaughan, yes or no? Did you speak at an event organized by the Social Contract Press?
Look,
Yes or no? Yes or no? Yes or no? Yes or no? You were able to answer other questions in a yes or no fashion. Yes or no?
Look, what
you
I said is that
did you appear? Did you appear? Excuse me, Mr. Chairman. This is my time.
Ain't nothing changed, nothing new here to see. This ain't nothing but some political maneuvering. America. Welcome to the eulogy. Eat it up. It's called political buffoonery.
Hey there, everybody, and welcome back to This Week in DUMBmocracy, the show that exposes political buffoonery as it happens during the week. So for today's episode, we're looking at the House Homeland Security Committee meeting that occurred last week, talking about the border crisis on our southern border. Now, the committee invited various experts, and by now you should know how these committee hearings go, folks. The Republicans are in the majority in the House, so they produce witnesses and experts that they want to hear from. The minority, the Democrats in this case, will get an opportunity to present one of their witnesses. And then it's just partisan warfare, right? It's going back and forth at people for whatever reason you want. And there's a lot of different things at play here. But the thing that I want to highlight in this video is the idea that, well, it's always easier to smear a person than it is to confront an opposing viewpoint. And this video is a prime example of that. Let's get into the video now. This is the questioning of an immigration expert that's clearly on the right side of politics, being questioned, if you want to call it that, by Representative Rob Menendez from New Jersey. As you'll see here, it gets really heated really fast.
Mr. Menendez of New Jersey.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We can all agree that Mexican cartels pose a direct threat to U.S. interest. We can all agree that we need to fight the scourge of fentanyl in this country. We can also agree that this body and the United States government should prioritize addressing these issues. But today's hearing has not been a serious discussion of ways to protect American families from cartel activities or fentanyl trafficking. How can we engage in good faith discussions of border policies when this committee's majority is using this committee to arrive at a predetermined destination, the impeachment of Secretary Mayorkas? A destination they have said both publicly and behind closed doors they are set on reaching, no matter what the facts are, no matter what the administration has done to address these critical issues. When witnesses confirm what the majority already believes instead of engaging in actual fact-finding. Ms. Vaughan, you work for the Center for Immigration Studies, is that correct?
Yes, I do.
Ms. Vaughan, yes or no? Did you speak at an event organized by the Social Contract Press?
Look,
yes or no? Yes or no? Yes or no? Yes or no? You were able to answer other questions in a yes or no fashion. Yes or no?
Look, what
said is that did you appear? Excuse me, Mr. Chairman. This is my time.
To smear me.
No, I'm just asking you questions.
The gentleman reclaims his time.
Denigrating.
Did you appear alongside an editor of Chronicles magazine? Yes or no?
Could you repeat it, please?
Did you appear alongside an editor of Chronicles magazine? Yes or no?
Not that I know of.
Did you give an interview to the American Free Press?
I've never heard of it.
You've never heard of the American Free Press?
No, sir.
You've never done work with the American Free Press. Okay, well, we'll go back to the record.
Explain to me what
I think it's important that, excuse me, I'm reclaiming my time. I think it's important that we shed light on the organization you work for, as well as the three organizations that I believe you have either worked for or appeared alongside.
So you see what's going on here. This is the political equivalent of a drive-by character assassination. What are the ideas that Menendez is confronting here? Who is this person that he's confronting? Let's examine this horrible, horrible person whose name I believe is Ms. Vaughan, and let's shed some light on who, maybe this is all justified for all we know. Let's expose who she is right now. So this is from the Center for Immigration Studies, CIS.org. The person that was speaking is a woman by the name of Jessica Vaughan. She is the Director of Policy Studies at the organization. This is, let's just read the bio. I'm not going to characterize it in any way. I'll just use their own words. Jessica Vaughan is Director of Policy Studies for the Center for Immigration Studies, a Washington, D.C.-based research institute that examines the impact of immigration on American society and educates policymakers and opinion leaders on immigration issues. Okay, so she is a self-professed expert. Let's see what her credentials are. Prior to joining the center, Mrs. Vaughan was a Foreign Service officer with the State Department, where she served in Belgium and Trinidad and Tobago. Her articles have appeared in the Washington Post, New York Times, not exactly right-leaning organizations, National Review, okay, there we go now, Boston Globe, The Economist, and San Francisco Chronicle, The National Interest, the Arizona Republic, and other publications, and can be found at cis.org. If you want to check it out, feel free. She has testified before Congress dozens of times. Again, guys, this doesn't sound like an extremist, and advises state lawmakers and agencies on immigration issues. She is frequently cited in news media reports on immigration and has appeared on NPR, that bastion of right-wing media, CNN, you catch my drift here, guys, MSNBC, Fox News, and PBS's NewsHour. She holds a master's degree from Georgetown University and a bachelor's in international studies at Washington College in Maryland. Now, okay, so she doesn't sound like your typical extremist that would warrant a guilt by association attack, which is what we saw here. So let's see if we can track down what she was talking about. So here is the hearing in its entirety. It's actually on CIS's website. The topic of the hearing was Biden and Mayorkas's open border, advancing cartel crime in America. So let's see what her statement was. Look, it's right here for all of us to see. The mass migration crisis instigated by the Biden administration's misguided immigration policies has caused incalculable harm to American communities, to the integrity of our immigration system, and tragically, to many of the migrants themselves. So this isn't an anti-immigration stance. This is an anti-policy stance that is hurting not only the American people, but also those seeking to enter the country, at least according to Ms. Vaughan. I would tend to agree with that, and I don't think that that's such an extreme viewpoint. While there are a number of beneficiaries to these policies, including employers seeking cheap workers, NGOs who are awarded huge contracts to provide services to migrants, and politicians, she's attacking the political class, and maybe Menendez took that a little personally. Politicians who welcome the addition of non-citizen constituents to their district, to name a few. The biggest winners under the Biden-Mayorkas policies are the criminal cartels and other transnational criminal organizations who are reaping profits on a nearly unimaginable scale. And she goes on to mention drug trafficking and how that's big business, as well as cartels making more money from human smuggling and trafficking than they are from drugs. There's a reason why Sound of Freedom is one of the number one movies in America and has become so insanely profitable. I think it hit over 100 million recently. These are real issues at the border that not only hurt American citizens, but hurt migrants as well. So I don't understand what exactly is warranting this attack. Like what you see so far? Go ahead and smash that thumbs up button. Also, leave us a comment and tell us what you're thinking. And don't forget to subscribe so you never miss another show.
The Center for Immigration Studies has been labeled an anti-immigrant hate group by the Southern Poverty Law Center.
That's a complete...
The social contract press, a white nationalist public...
Oh, that finger up in her face. That is just dismissive, arrogant, audacious. He doesn't even have the courtesy to look at her while he's speaking.
Has been labeled as a designated hate group by the Southern Poverty Law Center. According to the Southern Poverty Law Center, Chronicles magazine is a publication with strong neo-Confederate ties that caters to the white nationalist movement. And according to the Anti-Defamation League, the American Free Press is an anti-Semitic newspaper founded by a Holocaust denier. On the day that Congress welcomed the Israeli president to address us, we have someone who has contributed to an anti-Semitic newspaper founded by a Holocaust denier. A witness who makes 9 assertions in her written testimony about the administration's policies, assertions the majority will likely rely on to further their cause for the impeachment of Secretary Mayorkas. Yet only 2 citations were provided for those 9 assertions, both of which were provided by the Center for Immigration Studies, where you work, again, an organization that's been labeled an anti-immigrant hate group.
So you see what he's doing here. He's setting up an army of straw men. You are associated with this organization that I disagree with, that you have associated with people I disagree with, therefore you are hateful, especially because the Southern Poverty Law Center says so. Really? We're still using the Southern Poverty Law Center as our ultimate shield and sword to fight people that we think are hateful? Southern Poverty Law Center has had their own problems. I believe that they lost a lawsuit where they labeled someone hateful, and they had to pay up for that. There were allegations of sexual harassment, gender discrimination, and racism within the organization. That just a parade of disgraces that leads me to believe that the Southern Poverty Law Center has lost all credibility. It's a rotten organization. It's been failing to meet the virtues that they celebrate themselves. They're very hypocritical. It's a hypocritical organization. And the fact that Menendez is trying to use them as a shield and a sword against Miss Vaughan, again, if this was Donald Trump, I can understand going hard at this person. But this is someone who's a policy wonk, who's been around for several years, who has appeared across the spectrum of media, both audio, visual, print, all sides of the aisle, Washington Post, NPR. It's someone who obviously has garnered enough credibility to testify before Congress several times. I think the bio said dozens of times. But Menendez doesn't want you to know all that. He wants you to listen to his slander.
I also think it's important that we discuss some of these issues through the lens of our values. Members of the majority, along with some of our witnesses, have mentioned their concern for the safety of migrants. Ms. Vaughan, you contend that the administration's policies expose migrants to abuse by the cartels. I'm glad that you recognize that the long and difficult journey that migrants face is an issue of concern. Immigrants travel to the United States by any means they can in search of a better life for their family, including on foot for hundreds, if not thousands of miles, enduring exposure to injury and illness along the way. That's why it's unconscionable to me that you also go out of your way to praise what Governor Abbott of Texas has done. You say in your testimony that, quote, to the extent there is any improvement at all, it is most likely due to efforts by the state of Texas to physically block the entry points, such as by patrolling the Rio Grande River, installing razor wire and buoys. I'm sure that many of us saw the reports this week about how Texas is telling their medics in the Department of Public Safety to treat migrants inhumanely. There's been a soaring heat wave in the Southwest, yet medics have reportedly been told not to give out water. Governor Abbott has made crossing the Rio Grande River a more dangerous and even deadly proposition by adding the buoys and razor wire mentioned that you alluded to in your testimony, including in areas of the river with high water and low visibility. This report included a story of a 19-year-old woman trapped in the wire who was having a miscarriage. 5 immigrants have drowned in 1 week period in the area near where this wire was installed. Where is the humanity for these people?
Have you no decency, Ms. Vaughan, and all you horrible, evil Republicans? The response to this is obviously very easy. The response is the inhumanity is created by the Biden-Mayorkas policies of having a porous border and allowing people to come in illegally without going through ports of entry. You allow for these abuses to happen, the human trafficking, the desperation of these people to cross through, because you don't have a proper system of allowing people into the country on the southern border. But clearly the inhumanity is from the Republicans. It's just as inhumane to not have a properly secured border for these people who are suffering from human trafficking and all these other illegal means. You know, this is the sort of buffoonery that I talk about in my book. I'm bringing it out. Schnooks, Crooks, Liars, and Scoundrels, a field guide to identifying political buffoons. Available now on Amazon, at Barnes & Noble, and other online bookstores. This is a combination of a lot of different types of buffoonery. You see how Menendez is trying to stoke emotional fires here by talking about the humanity that is being violated by the policies endorsed by Ms. Vaughan, by Governor Abbott, by Republicans in general. It's almost to the point of trying to trigger people. And it seems like he himself is triggered, Mr. Menendez, by the very mention of policies that are contrary to his personal view. This is also clearly virtue signaling. How dare you be this way? You are on the side of the bad people. I'm on the side of the angels. I'm with the Southern Poverty Law Center. That's a virtue signal. You're on the side of these bad organizations, Chronicles Magazine, American Free Press, Center for Immigration Studies. You're a bad person. And there's also a lot of hypocrisy going on here, especially when you look at the opening. And like I said, the drive-by character assassination that he perpetrated by just going after this person with guilt by association tactics, which, again, you have to take his word for it if these organizations are truly bad, and by refusing to allow Ms. Vaughan to even respond. He's asking questions and not allowing her to respond, talking over her, interrupting, claiming the whole, reclaiming my time nonsense. Reclaiming my time is the sign of a cowardly legislator. Whenever you hear that phrase, it means that they don't want to hear anything over their pontificating and their sanctimony. That's what that's all about. Now, the way that Representative Menendez can get away with all this nonsense, the drive-by character assassination and all that, is because of a concept in the law called absolute privilege, which we're going to talk about right now. So the idea of absolute privilege is actually found in the Constitution when it comes to speeches by legislators in the act of performing their job. Absolute privilege provides a publisher immunity against claims of defamation, regardless of their motive or the manner in which they publish. Now, legislators have a special kind of absolute privilege that comes from the Constitution. Legislators, I highlighted it here for you so you can read it. Legislators are protected from defamation claims when they are performing their duties. This right to absolute immunity is provided in the Constitution under the Speech and Debate Clause. This right, like in the judicial proceeding privilege, extends to the press as well, as long as they accurately report the comments. The purpose behind the privilege is to allow elected officials to speak their mind, basically, without the need to censor themselves or have fear of any sort of reprisal for their undertaking of their ministerial duties. There are limits to this, of course. You cannot put such defamatory statements in a newsletter or a press release and have that be considered covered by this speech and debate clause. So Menendez can get away with this in a committee hearing because he has absolute privilege. He has absolute immunity here. So he can say whatever he wants, and Ms. Vaughan has no reprisal whatsoever for those remarks. She basically has to live with it and allow this buffoon to get away with what he's saying. So, folks, I'm just going to end up where I started. It's always easier for buffoons to basically smear people than it is to wrestle with their opposing views. But this also exposes the buffoon, guys. The smear, the character assassination, is a sign that they have no real argument. They have to go after the person. The ad hominem attack is all they have left. It's the last refuge of someone who's run out of ideas. It reflects badly on the confidence of their own argument, and it exposes their inability to confront the argument in a proper way. Rob Menendez here is typifying the sort of congressional buffoonery that we see throughout Congress, no matter what session we're in, no matter who's in the majority, who's in the minority. When you play these partisan games and you want to fight for the soundbite instead of fighting for the people, this is what you end up with.
All views and opinions expressed here are not necessarily of the mainstream media and may offend some listeners. It's called political buffoonery.